thought I would talk about the short story I have in the Bayonet Books Contact This anthology. That is a collection of short stories, um, on the theme of first contact with aliens. So it's a kind of a funny story behind how I came to this. J.R. Hanley, which put out the the anthologies. He approached me and asked if I'd like to write a short story for his anthology, and I said yes. Well, time passed, and I had completely forgot about it. And I was in the middle of writing a story for another anthology, um, Farthest Reach for Keystroke Medium, which I'll expound on a later date. But I was in the middle of writing that story, getting close to the end, and then JR contacts me again and says, "Hey, you're still writing a story for my anthology?" And I was like, "Oh, I completely forgot." I was like, yeah, maybe. When do you need it by? And he's like, "Well, by this time next week." I'm like, "Okay, so I have a week." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll see if I have something, and I'll let you know." And I thought, well, maybe I have some short story I haven't finished somewhere in my depths of my folders. I looked, I didn't find anything. So I said, "Okay, well, I'll just write something." And that's where the name came from. Because why not? And I was like, because why not? I'll give it a shot. And so I just went on this whole theme of like, okay, it's contact this. Oh, it's first contact. Like, okay, here we go again. First contact. Whoop-de-doo. And I just started with that premise of this guy who's just been over this first contact thing so many times. He's just so sick of it. It's like not even impressive anymore. And I decided, instead of just doing it like basic Earth, and someone has first contact with aliens from our modern day, I did it like in this more of a Star Trek type of thing, where this guy who lives living on the space station, where they are on the edge of the known galaxy, have constant contact with these new species of aliens that are developing warp drive or whatever. They could travel the stars, and he's the concierge to these aliens to get them things and help them acclimate and whatever. But he's just been through it so many times. He's just so bored. It's just like and I took the whole thing from Star Trek, because if you ever watch Star Trek, and I grew up watching Star Trek Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, um, all the aliens look so human, or not all of them, but most of them look so human. And it's like, oh, you have bumps on your noses. Oh, okay, you have bumps on your forehead, but you're still human. You still talk, and it was just like, okay, you're not very alien. Not that I minded that. I thought the shows were fine. I love the shows, and the aliens were fine. But it's just from a comedic perspective, it's just hilarious. And I decided to have this guy just like so unimpressed with all these aliens coming in, and it's like, oh wow, okay, this is nothing new. What do you do? And he's like this. It's like a guy who's watched a lot of Star Trek shows is now put in a situation where he's in a Star Trek show, and it was I just had fun with it. I didn't take it too seriously. I wrote it in like 4 days. 10,000 words I wrote in like 4 days. And one thing that did prove to me is that I could write a short 10,000 words in 4 days, which is pretty good. And I just did the best I could. I said, okay, well, here we go. I just submitted it. I cleaned it up. I didn't just make a slop mess. I just wrote the best story I could. And I submitted it and said, if it gets in, it gets in. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's fine. And they said they liked it. It's like, all right, sweet. So it got in. So now it's in there. That's on sale on Amazon. The link's below in the description. I think what I'm going to do is go into more detail on different parts of the story. Probably in January, I'm going to change my Patreon to start doing these videos regularly on Patreon for more in-depth things. I think I'll still do some on YouTube and on Facebook Live, but mostly I'm going to be doing them. I'm going to be doing the more in-depth things in Patreon. So an example of what I mean by more in-depth. So I would pull up the story and I'd say, oh, so this part where this part where the character Fredrickson, um, let's see, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Let me pull up this story real quick. So, oh yeah, so like I would talk about like in this story, while they're waiting for this new arrival, they hear a voice, the computer voice, and it says "ship docking," and he muses like, "Why is it always a feminine voice? Why is it always a woman?" He actually says in the story, says, "Why is it always a woman? Not that I have anything against women, just that it would be a nice change of pace if the voice was like some hardened drill sergeant speaking around a cigar in his mouth. Ship docking, maggot! Get your butt in gear!" So I put that in there because I've thought about that a few times. Like, why is it always like this feminine voice? Like, oh, ship coming out of warp. Shield's failing. Like, why is that? Now, on Star Trek Next Generation, I understand because that was Gene Roddenberry's wife, or widow, rather, that did the voice of the computer. So that makes sense. But it's just kind of like this theme that carries through. It's not always static in science fiction, but it's just, it was in Star Trek, the original series, it was in Star Trek Next Generation, it was in Voyager, it's just, I just thought it was a funny theme that would be fun to make fun of. So anyway, more in-depth stuff like that. Not going through every single line, obviously, but stuff that sticks out. It's like, oh, I did this here because of that. Or even Bible verses that my writing matches up with. Because I'm a Christian. Not that I write everything based on Bible verses or anything like that. I try to write a good story, and the Bible informs my worldview, which informs my stories. So the morals and the ethics that are in the Bible transfer into my stories. So all the good stuff you see in there is from the Bible, and the bad stuff is stuff that the Bible speaks against. But anyway, just in-depth stuff about my stories. I'm going to post those on Patreon, probably on a monthly basis, and I'll make a new tier for that. So for those of you who are interested in that, you can go to Patreon, sign up. Like I said, I'll be setting it up in January. And until then, I'll keep doing these on YouTube, just light surface explanations of my stories for those who are interested. Let me know in the comments if you are interested, if you want to see more, if there's something else you'd like to see. I'm not doing author interviews as much anymore. I may still do them from time to time, but for now, they're on hold. I'm just trying to get my writing done. Currently, I'm working to finish up Half-Orc Kindred and the Cross and Jade series. And on the weekends, I'm starting my Cyberpunk series. And hopefully that'll, eventually I'll, be able to focus on that full time. And I'm hoping by this time next year to be full-time writing. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what the Lord does. It's all dependent upon Him. So, until next time, thanks for watching, and keep reading and keep writing.